Listen very carefully and follow my instructions. Prepare your brain for the Cortex Labs Nootropics podcast.
I gotta tell you, being an entrepreneur, I will not go through the rest of my career without taking nootropics. Aniracetam, piracetam, modafinil, Nupec, uridyl monophosphate. I mean, phenylpiracetam, forget it. You could always have a better brain.
The Cortex Labs Nootropics podcast is about to begin.
Episode number 109 of Cortex Labs Nootropics podcast. I am your host, Ryan Michael Bell. Thanks so much for being with me. We're going to talk about all of the things that I did wrong and that I think other people do wrong in the beginning stages of fussing with nootropics. This is going to be a good podcast, so I want you to listen up because the important points that we make around what not to do when experimenting with nootropics are points that you can take away to actually get good benefits from nootropics. The point is to get good benefits, and there's things you shouldn't be doing that people often do that I did. So we're going to get to that first product pro. Number one, the Cortex Nootropic Stack right now, guys, $33 if you want to support us outright on the website. Buy a bottle of what's being called the only pre-made stack that works. You're going to love the stack. If you want a coupon code or a discount, totally fine. Just use the coupon code 5, F-I-V-E. That'll take a bottle to $28. If you want a bottle for $25, cheapest we've ever had, the Cortex Nootropic Stack, you can get that. You just got to buy two. That's called the Cortex Double Stack. And you can buy that at livecortex.com. Look, if you need help with nootropics, particularly in formulating stacks that work well for you, get the Nootropics Consulting service. It is a very, very comprehensive, custom-tailored stack formulation protocol for you that you do with me. Get that at livecortex.com. And if you're new to nootropics, just read Smarter, Better, Faster. It will teach you everything you need to know, and it'll save you a couple years of research and experimentation. Or get the Nootropic Starter Pack, which is Smarter, Better, Faster, plus a bottle of our stack Cortex in a package deal. And lastly, God, the biggest service we've ever had. If you're looking to boost testosterone, we have a testosterone boosting protocol. It is called the Viking Testosterone Protocol. It's a protocol that I put together after, tireless research and then finding out that I had pretty low T, somewhere around the 300s, and I did not feel good, did not have libido, did not have masculinity the way I wanted it, did not have confidence. Came back and doubled it, and basically my life changed. If you want to raise testosterone, no BS, you got to get the Viking Testosterone Protocol. We will do it for you, and I promise you'll be happy with the outcome of the program, okay? Do all that stuff at livecortex.com. So, probably I would say the first 4 years of my nootropics experimentation, I made a lot of mistakes. And those mistakes became the basis for the advice that I now give and we now give as a company on nootropics. A lot of the stuff that you see on the Cortex Labs Nootropics channel, even here and definitely in our books, are stacks that are dosed very particularly. There's tenets. It's understanding for you what you're going to need. It's identifying what kind of nootropics user you are. So are you a microdoser? Do you need attack doses? Do you need sort of regular doses? It's understanding the proper way to cycle nootropics so that you don't have downregulation or side effects or tolerance. And it's also realizing how to dose some of the really, really strong nootropics, and particularly how not to stack them, what not to stack them with. So let's just start there and kind of go in reverse order. The biggest mistake, one of the biggest mistakes I made very, very early on with cholinergics was I would try stacking huperzine A with other choline sources rather than just getting the benefit of huperzine A. So huperzine A is this Chinese club moss. The plant is Huperzia serrata, the species Huperzia serrata. You take it in very, very small doses, and basically it inhibits this enzyme that breaks down and recycles acetylcholine, which takes it kind of out of circulation for the moment and then kind of reserves it for circulation later on down the line. So basically you have this compiling of a focus and memory neurotransmitter that just is not allowed to exit kind of functional circulation in the brain. And thus, you get all the benefits with having high acetylcholine. You get good memory benefits, you get focus benefits. For some people, you get verbal fluency benefits, things of that nature. That's why huperzine A is really awesome. But the mistake that I made and the mistake that people make is taking it with other cholinergics. Look, if you've got your dose right on huperzine A, you're not going to need anything else, right? An inhibition of the enzyme acetylcholine esterase, which is what it does, to keep all this acetylcholine kind of flowing in circulation in your brain. That is enough, and it should be enough. The other problem that the other mistake that I made with huperzine A is just dosing it too high initially. I mean, I think the first time I took it, I started at 400 or 500 micrograms. There was one time where I dosed it kind of very non-judiciously, and I might have been 800 or 900 micrograms. Very, very bad idea. I had super side effects, could not sleep, was nauseous. I was just like feeling psychedelic. It was really not a good experience. You basically get acetylcholine sludge syndrome. You can look that up. It's a very, very terrible state in which you've got entirely too much acetylcholine compiling in your brain, and that can be really, really terrible. So that's the other mistake with huperzine A. You got to start small. Start at 50 micrograms, work your way up to 200 or 300. Find your max spot. Don't take it with other cholinergics. The other major mistake that I was making in the first couple years, and I wondered why my stacks were so inconsistent, is when I stacked major cholinergics, especially cholinergic racetams, I did not do them in medium doses. I stacked them in regular doses. So when you've got a couple compounds that are doing similar things and working on similar neurotransmitters that you're taking at the same time, dosing them in the regular doses, which people think they have to do because, these are the doses for these nootropics. This is what Reddit says. This is what people say. This is what the anecdotals say, is a bad idea. So the mistake that I was making is one of my favorite racetam trios is aniracetam, piracetam, oxiracetam. And what I was doing in the first 3 to 4 years of taking nootropics is I was taking them at regular doses. I take piracetam at 2 grams. I take aniracetam at 700 milligrams. I take oxiracetam at 1 gram and then take my choline source. And you know what? I got great brain performance for 2 days out of the week if I was taking that stack, 3 or 4 times during a week, which I was back then, which we're going to talk about, another mistake that I was making. I was not getting the same positive results on days 3 and 4 as I was on days 1 and 2. So I'd take the stack on days 1 and 2 and it'd be totally awesome. I'd be like, this is the best stack in the world. I'm going to take this stack. Now I know it's going to work. I'd take it the next day and it just did not have the same effect. It either gave me side effects or made me tired or just didn't work as well. And I'm like, man, what is the deal with the inconsistency of this stack? The deal was I needed to basically medium dose everything. So instead of 2 grams of piracetam, I took it down to 1. Instead of 700 milligrams of aniracetam, I took it down to 300 milligrams. Instead of 1 gram of oxiracetam, I took it to 300 or 400 milligrams. Brought my choline source in there. And then I found that the stack was consistent. Interestingly, as a side note, I'm just trying to give you as much data as I can here. If you take a stack that's pretty high dose, like the first stack that I suggested, 2 grams piracetam, gram of oxiracetam, 700 of aniracetam, and you want to get consistently good effects from that, you can take it for a day or two and have it be fine, but even thereafter switch to the medium dosing protocol. Take a fourth or a half of those doses of those compounds the next time you take the stack. Next problem that I had, which is kind of related to that, is sometimes I take multiple stacks a day. I mean, I at least did then. I do sometimes now, but to a lesser extent. When I did that, I made the mistake of taking the same doses of those stacks. So let's just break down an example. So if I rocked in the morning with some coffee, 250 milligrams of phenylpiracetam, 5 milligrams of coliracetam, and 100 milligrams of CDP choline, I'm like, man, this is awesome. By 1 p.m., that starts to wear off, and I'm thinking, okay, what do I got to do to get myself back in a good state? Well, I should just take the same stack that I just took in the same doses. Absolutely the wrong idea, and it took me years to figure this out. I know it's so simple, but it took me that long. The real sweet spot in doing that, if you're taking multiple stacks a day that are the same, which is fine, you can do that, is to half the doses, is to quarter the doses. You can take the same stack, but all you're going to need to jumpstart that system again is a little bit of those compounds in smaller doses, not in such large doses that you took initially. You just kind of need to wake up those pathways again. You're still going to have some degree of residual function from the initial nootropic stack. Even though seemingly the acute effects went away, they will start to come back and compound on the second stack. You just got to take the doses either a half lower or take a fourth of the dose that you took initially. That changed my, nootropics like strategy. The other major thing, as I'm going to get to, was cycling. In my first 4 years, I did not cycle a lot. And I went through periods because of that where certain nootropic compounds would just give me side effects or they weren't working correctly, to where I had to take 2 months, 3 months, 4 months, in a couple cases, 6 months off of certain nootropics because they weren't making me feel good because I wasn't cycling them. I'd be taking certain stacks for 8, 9 months straight. And then I would get to the point where the stack did the reverse on me. My brain didn't need it anymore. It gave me side effects. And I'm like, man, I can't take this awesome stack that I love, that I would love to be able to take, because now I got to give myself 6 months off of it for my brain to kind of adjust back to normal and then require the neurotransmitter modification and neurogenesis upregulation that these nootropics are giving me. The way I could have prevented that would simply have been to have in the reservoir at least 5 stacks over the course of 2 weeks to switch between, a modafinil racetam stack one day, a tyrosine alcar phenylalanine stack the next day, a theacrine alcar alpha GPC stack the next day, a racetam trio theacrine stack the next day, cycling off for 2 days thereafter, cycling off for a week after a month of 5 days a week use. Okay, these are the distinctions that I learned early on that fixing them allowed me to take nootropics pretty sustainably without side effects and just constantly get good results. And when I was doing this wrong, I was not functioning well. I wasn't getting the best optimization on nootropics. I was confused on why my stacks were inconsistent. I was confused why one day I would take a stack and it'd be awesome, and the next day I'd take the same stack and it would not be awesome. And I had no idea what to do. And finally it dawned on me, like, okay, like the thing in the back of your mind that you've been thinking that you probably have to do, which is to take less of the stuff and to cycle more and to switch between stacks, and to know if you're dosing 2 of the same stack a day to kind of half the dose or 1/4 the dose on your second dose. Once I started doing that stuff, that's when like the light bulb went on. That's when I'm like, oh man, all these problems that people talk about with nootropics when they're dosing them wrong, it's because they're dosing them wrong, and I can fix them. That was the basis for the creation of our YouTube channel and the start of some of our content that we've put out on the web, and then became, of course, the basis for the methodology that we put out in all the podcasts and all the videos that we do and all the digital books that we wrote, including Smarter, Better, Faster, which you can get at livecortex.com, okay? So don't make those mistakes when you're getting into nootropics. You got to learn to cycle. You got to learn to half your doses. If you're taking high doses of things, like if you're taking a lot of different racetams, don't take them in the highest doses possible. Those doses are really meant, those big high doses, are meant for singular usage of that nootropic compound. Okay, so if you're going to take piracetam by itself, 4 grams is fine. But if you're going to take it with 2 or 3 other racetams, you got to take it down to 1 or 2 grams. That is the way you have to do it. And man, woman, guys, whoever listening, you got to cycle between stacks. It takes a little work, it takes experimentation, but it is worth it. You've got to sit down with 5 or 6 stacks and you've got to work the doses. You got to write down how you feel, modify the doses and experiment to find a perfect sweet spot for that particular stack. And then you put that in the reservoir stacks to take that work, but do not take it every day. Take it on Monday. Take the same stack Tuesday, totally fine. But Wednesday, don't do that. Take a totally different stack that works on a totally different system. If you're working on racetams Monday and Tuesday in memory, take modafinil and theacrine, caffeine and theanine on Wednesday. And then, maybe take a different racetam stack Thursday, maybe shoot for yohimbine, ALA, some theacrine, some caffeine, not heavy nootropics, but certainly brain performance modifying compounds on Friday. That will prevent downregulation. That will prevent side effects. That will prevent inconsistencies in your stacks. And I think that's what we're all looking for. There is a surgical way to use nootropics. And basically, this is it. We lay a lot of that out in Smarter, Better, Faster. If you're new to nootropics, you got to buy that book. It teaches you everything. And the methodology behind the nootropic stacks in all of our digital books is just like that, like the nootropic stacks for the business professional, hardcore business stacks, but the methodology is in place in that book. Get all of our digital books at livecortex.com. If you want a well put together pre-made stack that you don't have to do anything for, you just take 2 capsules and your brain turns on, get a bottle of the Cortex stack at livecortex.com. $33 a bottle. $28 a bottle if you use the coupon code 5, F-I-V-E. $25 a bottle if you buy 2. That's the Cortex double stack. Get that at livecortex.com. And if you need my help personally on nootropics, if you need custom stack formulation, tailored stack formulation, get our consulting service. We will help you formulate stacks that work well for you. And then lastly, if you're looking to boost testosterone, if you want to feel like a man again, if you want to have masculinity, if you want to wake up motivated, if you want to have libido, if you want to have erection quality, if you want your woman to sense that you're masculine and be more into you and more attracted to you, and for your relationship dynamic, because your masculinity is toned up to a healthy degree, to be healthy, the masculine-feminine dynamic I'm referring to, then you got to boost your testosterone, and we've got a program for that. It's called the Viking Testosterone Protocol. Get that at livecortex.com. If you want a discount, use the coupon code VIKING. It'll take it down to $170. Well worth it to boost test, especially if you're thinking about going on TRT, which is way more expensive and you have to be doing it for the rest of your life, okay? Get that protocol at livecortex.com. Thanks so much for listening, everybody. Rock on. Talk to you next time.